There's a saying in the industry: the difference between a junior developer and a senior developer is how will they understand promises. So today I'm going to briefly explain you what a promise is, and we will solve two of my favorite interview questions related to promise, which I have been, by the way, repeatedly asked in a lot of Indian tech companies. And what's the use of knowing anything theoretically until unless you go ahead and implement it? If you're actively interviewing, these questions will come real handy to you. So try to watch it till the end. If I have to explain promise in a really nice fashion, promises are results of async operations. Promises consist of three predominant states: pending, fulfilled, and reject. So at a time, a promise could either be in one of these states. You can convert a sync operation into an async operation as well just by wrapping around a promise. That brings us to our first questions. So this was one of the questions which I was asked when I was starting out my journey in the tech industry. It might sound really weird because why would you want to go ahead and convert a sum function which is pretty well, you just have to return whatever the addition of those arguments are, right? Why would you want to convert that into a promise, right? But this is a base for a lot of questions you might be anytime asked, that promisify some dash dash function. So sum is just a type of it. You could be asked anything. So if you know how to promisify one function, you can genuinely pick any function and try it out on your own. So we're gonna go ahead and try to solve this. So to start off with, we just have to, like my personal mental model is whatever the function, the dash function that has been given to you, right? Try to implement that first and see if it's working, then move to promisifying it, right? So in this case, it's pretty straightforward. Um, it's just A, B, two arguments, and I just have to return those, and that's it. So I can quickly do a console log of 1 and 2, 1 and 3, okay, and I can just press enter, and the resultant is 4. Now you have to understand what does promisifying this means, right? Promisifying this basically means I should be able to call a function this way: 1 and 3 again, and dot then. So I should get the result. The function should return the result after dot then is being called. So in this case, I can just do this. This is a shortcut for, uh, yeah. So this is basically a shortcut for that. Whatever the argument is, it just feeds in to console.log. So yeah, this is what we would want to achieve. So if you look at here, right now, it's just returning the resultant, but as the question suggests, we have to promisify it, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and wrap it in curly braces, and we want to return a new promise. Promise takes in two arguments: resolve and reject, which is basically the repercussion due to which it comes up to be, one of the three states which we talked earlier, which were, either pending. Pending essentially means it's still calculating because as promises used for an async operation, and async operations usually take some time, right? So that's there. And the second, if you call resolve, which basically means it's in the fulfill state, and if you call reject, then it's in the reject state. So we're returning a promise here, and let me just, yeah. And here, as we want to just go ahead and resolve it, we can just do a plus b right here. And I think this should work out fine. Let's try it out. Yeah, cool. So we have got our output here, right? We can even to check it out. We can just add a log beside it and see it's working. Yeah, cool, it's working. So that was the first question. um, The second question which we would want to do is, let me just bring it to the down. Okay, the second question is this. So what we want to do is create a sleep function which returns good morning after 5 seconds. So there are two ways to do this function, and let's try the first way, which is pretty easy. So now you have to look at this. The meta model should be, how would you make this out of a promise, right? As promise is usually used for async operation, which basically means some time has to be there. This 5 seconds, you have to make sure that it calls it after that. Now, this is just an example where the interviewer would see how modular of a code you could go ahead and write. So you have either an option to make a function which always takes 5 seconds, like whom you call, and it will always return based on 5 seconds. Or secondly, you can go ahead and even make an argument out of that particular value, right? The seconds. So you can also intake time as one of the argument in that function, and based on the time, if the interviewer next asks you, what if I want to do 10 seconds, you can just say you call this particular function with 10 seconds. It's that straightforward. And since there's a small delay, which is 5 seconds or 10 seconds or whatever the millisecond that has been passed while calling that function, we can just go ahead and straight away use set timeout. That is the easiest way to go ahead and do. So let's just go ahead and implement this sleep. As mentioned earlier, we would make sure that the argument will take one argument, which will be whatever the timing is. So let's take ms, and then as usual, we have to return a promise, which will have two arguments, resolve and reject. And now we have to just wrap around a set timeout, and we just need to resolve it saying good morning. And the second argument would be ms uh, of the set time. So this basically would make sure that if I'm calling this sleep function with let's say 10 seconds, then it will return it after 10 seconds, else 5 seconds. So let's try it out if it's working fine. So since it's accepting in milliseconds, so it will be 5,000 milliseconds, and I can just do console log here. Oh, okay, awesome. Oh, I did a mistake here. There's no second argument to this, right? So we can just go ahead and do this and um, this, and let me just run this again. Okay, yeah, cool. This is coming well, and let me just uh, yeah. So as you can see that good morning is being returned after 5 seconds, which is a lot of time, but well, yeah. Yep. So this was one of the pointer when you're given something as an argument, and if you see if you can make a function which is modular. For example, I can even add 10 seconds here. No, not 105, but 10 seconds here. So this gives a really good impression to the interviewer because you are thinking outside of the box, and you are making sure that you wouldn't want to rewrite the function in case you're in case some of the things change, right? This basically makes sure to take care of all the use cases based on whatever input we have in hand. So even try to convert all those things into a variable, and it will give a really good impression. All right, that's it for today. Thank you guys. My name is Dhrubesh. Signing off.